Hey folks, welcome back. It's Jerry once again here at Hilltop Firearms Training Center, Dover, Tennessee. Thank you for watching. When I first started this channel, I tried really hard to be the next gun gear review guy, and I learned really quickly it just wasn't my thing. Now, while I've, over the years I have made a few videos on particular, say, handguns or a rifle or an optic or some product that I really believed in, I've learned to leave those videos to the professionals out there. There's so many of these big name gun channels that do some of the most amazing guns and gear reviews. I don't even try to compete with those folks. Every once in a while though, a product comes along that catches my eye, and today is the reason I'm doing a video on a very unique handgun. From Smith & Wesson, we have the M&P series 380 Shield EZ. And I know that sounds kind of odd because, like, why would I be doing a video on a 380, much less a handgun in this M&P series line of pistols? Well, I'll tell you why. One of the biggest reasons is, having worked with a lot of people over the years in my modest attempt to teach people how to better protect themselves by using firearms, I've noticed folks that I've interacted with seem to fall into two categories. There may be a person that's extremely new to firearms, very reluctant on shooting and manipulating firearms, and a lot of times they will stay far away from a semi-automatic, either for the reasons of, well, that gun's kind of complicated, or I hear this, I just don't have a lot of hand strength and I can't, I cannot manipulate the slide, I can't load the magazines. So a lot of times they will often settle for, say, like a 5-shot revolver. And a 5-shot revolver is adequate, okay? And I will agree, it's a much more simpler design. Sometimes people, I feel, if they could just take a little extra time, would be most benefited by carrying a semi-automatic, because you can reload the gun quicker. Most of the time they do carry more ammunition than, say, most of your 5-shot small frame revolvers. And the other thing I see is sometimes people take the easy way out, because they'll be like, well, I'll just get that revolver because I don't really shoot a lot. The other side of it is, if they do take the plunge and they go to buy a semi-automatic, and you may be able to relate to this, I see this very often, they will come up here armed with, say, one of these little pocket 380s, the Ruger LCP. That's a good example. Excellent little pistol. Not exactly the most fun gun to handle, shoot, and manipulate. It's so small. And that's the thing that I've noticed. The handgun becomes so small that you can't even get a full firing grip. The slide, because it's so short, it has a stiff little recoil spring. You see people struggling, they can hardly, and they'll end up jamming the handgun. Well, that's one thing about this 380 M&P Shield EZ model. Is the first thing that I noticed was it's got a full size grip. And I don't have exactly the biggest hands, but usually with your small micro pistols, people are usually lucky to get even 2 fingers on the bottom of the grip. You also have a full size slide and a couple other things that I really want to show you that you may want to, say, if you know somebody that is reluctant or simply carries a 5-shot revolver but really wants to get into that semi-automatic pistol and start carrying something with a little more firepower, this handgun may be something that you can recommend to a friend, family member, or so forth. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at the design features of the pistol, and then we're going to take it onto the range to see how this thing shoots. All right, guys, let's take a closer look at the pistol itself. Let's do a quick safety check. Pistol is in fact empty. So one of the things I want to kind of discuss is the texturing. The texturing is aggressive enough to where you really get a good grip on the pistol, but it's not overly abrasive. A lot of companies kind of go a little wild sometimes, and it almost feels like you're holding a piece of sandpaper when you shoot the guns. This one here has just enough to know that you get some good traction, okay? I mentioned full-size grip. That is really important because most of the 380s, and there's a few, but most of the 380s on the market have very small grips. The thing also that I want you to also be aware of is this pistol has sort of a very unique grip safety built into it, and I was kind of reluctant as to why would they even do that, because none of the other handguns in the M&P line from Smith & Wesson have a grip safety. But then I looked and I noticed why they did it. If you look close at the trigger, it is not like the other M&Ps where it's hinged. Let me show you something real quick. This is my personal M&P 22 caliber compact. I use this a lot. I usually run a suppressor on it. But if you notice, look at the trigger. If you notice, it has this hinged area, but if your finger is not in the correct placement on the trigger, watch how the little stop prevents the trigger from being depressed. Once you get your finger on the trigger, it hinges up and allows you to press the trigger. Now, that was the reason for the incorporating of the grip safety. Kind of cool. I was at first like, wow, what is that bulky looking thing? But honestly, guys, when you put when you put the handgun into your hand and get a proper grip, you don't even realize it's there. Once again, to prove how that works is if I simply try to press the trigger, it is inoperable. Once the grip safety is depressed, basically achieved by a proper grip, you get a little bit of take up and smooth trigger press. And I want you to listen to the reset. I'm pretty impressed with that. For a factory trigger, that is not bad. Now, you're going to notice that this pistol here does not have any other safeties such as this one does, but you can actually get your choice. If you want the ambidextrous frame mounted external manual safety, you can get that on this as well. This model does not have it, but it is available. So if you wanted one extra thing where you'd have to just rake that safety down plus depress the grip safety, Smith & Wesson has that one in also available in their line of the new 380 Shield Easy series, which is cool. Now, another thing, and this is just something that I personally thought was cool. Many years ago, I go way back with Smith & Wesson. I was carrying their pistols in the 80s and 90s. Smith & Wesson had something that I did not like in a lot of their handguns from the 80s, the steel framed pistols that law enforcement used. If the magazine was not in the pistol, the trigger would not work. It rendered the pistol inoperable. Magazine is not in this pistol. Get my hand on the grip safety. The pistol still works. I personally like that for anything you're going to carry for defensive personal protection. I think that's a good feature. I don't like a magazine disconnect safety. I never have. So let's look at the sights. The sights are nice steel 3-dot sights. The one thing that has always kind of bothered me about Glock pistols, and I've carried Glock since '95, the one thing that I've never liked about the Glock is when you buy a Glock, if you do not get like the factory night sights, the Glock pistols come with plastic polymer sights. These are well-made 3-dot steel sights. It also comes with a tool to adjust for windage. And I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure you can upgrade these to different types of sights. You know, I personally do not like 3-dot sights, but they are good quality sights at least. The grip has an 18-degree angle, which really seems to allow the shooter to point more in a natural, more comfortable manner. I kind of like that. The overall length is 6.7 inches, and if you notice, it is basically the same size as the 22 M&P compact. It's almost identical in size. Another thing that completely, I think, I guess you could say, for a lack of better words, really impressed me was the magazine design. Now, once again, I said this at the beginning of the video, if people have a reluctance to go to a semi-automatic pistol, maybe because they don't have the hand strength to manipulate the slide, another thing that I see very, very common has always been people have an issue loading the magazines. Notice the little button. What is that reminiscent of? A .22 caliber. For a better example, the .22 caliber M&P, most any .22 semi-automatic pistol that I can think of has some sort of design like this. You simply pull down, put the rounds into the pistol. This is a first. I've never seen, as far as I can remember, a .380 that was designed like this. I've got some of these little dummy rounds. A person that has a problem loading these will not have a problem loading these magazines. I'm sitting here on camera, I'm trying to look at the view screen. That is pretty ingenious. Easy to load, easy to unload. This is what I generally see in class is people will have, say, like this little double stack magazine out of a Glock 26, and they're trying to push, and I'm trying to explain, you know, use your thumb and push down, take the tension, thumb and forefinger and all that good stuff. A lot of times they're just sitting there fumbling, rounds are going flying. Oh, it's too hard to load. They're not if you know how to do it, but if you do have limited hand strength, these can be a little more of a challenge. Right here, it's taken out of the equation. I guess that's probably one of the coolest things about this little pistol to me personally, is how they went ahead and designed that. So here's another thing. A lot of people like, if you're going to carry this, say, for personal protection, a lot of people like to have a laser, a light, or a laser light combo. You have a full Picatinny Rail on a compact frame, so you can put just about anything under there if you like that. Takedown of the pistol is also very easy. One other thing too, magazine release is reversible. So if, say, you're a lefty and you want it on this side of the gun, it's a quick changeover. Takedown of the pistol, extremely easy. Once again, because the slide has got such a silky smooth reduced recoil spring, it's very easy to lock it to the rear. Lock it in its notch there. Take your finger on the takedown lever, rotate it down, pull back, and now the pistol is field stripped. Did you notice also I did not have to press the trigger to like decock the pistol, like dry fire. I didn't have to do that. I simply was able to take the pistol apart by simply rotating this down and letting it go forward. Okay, so barrel, nice polished feed ramp, well designed. Another thing I really want you to see, I'm about to put this back together real quick. You'll notice the recoil spring, very much it's a captive recoil spring, but it's very, very smooth and easy to manipulate. Very much like I would compare it to the .22. .22 is very easy to press that back. So to put it back together, you're simply going to take your guide rod. It's kind of cool. It only fits in one way. You have this sort of a diamond shape. You're going to simply put that in there, take a little bit of pressure and let it go into the little half moon on the front of the lug on the barrel. Line up the rails on the frame. Put it back, flip it up, back together. Another thing that I really like too, loaded chamber indicator. But the indicator is not so abrupt and so blatantly there. Some of the manufacturers, sometimes they go a little overboard and that thing sticks up like a big gigantic looking cloth, you know, coming out of the top of your slide. I like the fact that in the dark, just a quick brush across with your finger, you could feel it and you would know there was one in the chamber. During the day, of course, you just glance at it and you know one's home. Take down, take it out. Very, very, very well designed pistol. I spend so much time working on handguns, servicing handguns, doing a lot of gunsmithing. When I see something like this, I think about whoever came up with this was doing a lot of research and listening to what some of the people out there were looking for. People that I mentioned before, limited hand strength, new to semi-automatics, this would be a perfect handgun for that. Excellent little pistol. It does weigh 18.5 ounces. The barrel is just a little over 3 5/8 of an inch. One other thing that I really like about this is actually stainless steel. The slide is made of stainless, but it's coated in a new finish that Smith & Wesson is now using called Armonite. And Armonite is a nice, non-reflective, very durable, weather-resistant finish. Years back, they used the melanite over the slides. Well, this is now an Armonite finish over a stainless steel slide. So, okay guys, enough talking. I know you're probably sick of hearing it. Let's go out on the range and we're gonna do a little bit of shooting. Let's see how this guy runs. All right, guys, that wraps up our review of the little Smith & Wesson. I'm going to tell you something. This thing shoots well. I had a variety of ammunition on hand. I don't even have a 380 anymore, but I keep ammo on hand, so in the event I have to either function test a handgun on the range, so that's what I did. I dug out some Winchester white box, some Hornady critical defense, and I also had a lot of the old S&B stuff made in Czechoslovakia. It ran perfect. Shoots well. It's accurate. I took the gun out to about 21 feet, about 7 yards, a little further than that a few times, and I was still hitting fairly decent. I have really nothing negative to say about this handgun. And one thing you've got to keep in mind is who this pistol is marketed for. We talked about it in the beginning of the video, but if you know someone that maybe wants to take that transitional step from a revolver to a semi-auto, but they're reluctant for various ways, considering hand strength, physical limitations, this pistol has a lot of things going for it. And one thing I did not mention, and I'm going to try to see if you can see this on the camera, but you'll notice these two little areas at the back of the slide where the serrations are machined in. They have these two little build outs right there. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't really notice it until I started shooting, but you know, being able to grasp those two little ears that protrude out really does make a difference in cycling the slide. The recoil was just minimal, and I noticed while I was shooting I had hardly really any muzzle flip. It's a neat little handgun. If you or you know someone that would be in the market for one of these handguns, I would highly suggest you go to your favorite gun shop, check it out. If you can, even go to a gun store that has an indoor range and you can rent one of these. Definitely give it a try. Thank you guys for watching. I'll post the link to Smith & Wesson's website below. As always, I'll see you on the range.